I am EVP at Hero Collective, and I have worked both big shops, small shops, multicultural general market, and I am tired of playing small. And I often ask that of our leadership, like, why do we always have to play small? And the meaning of an AOR is not just a moniker, but that is what our diverse agencies have been relegated to. It's just a checkbox, right? So I think we've got some powerful people here to talk about a few things. And I wanted to open up with, we are often blunted from the opportunities, right? The white agencies get briefed on the black briefs, but the black agencies don't get briefed on the white briefs. What is your take on that, Mo? And I know I'm asking you because you've been in this game a lot longer, and you've seen it all. And why are we niche?
It's loaded, and it's cyclical almost. When I got to UWG, we had Three Musketeers. We had the whole thing. Not just black, it was everything. There has to be someone in that organization that, one, believes you're the best for the job, and two, understands that you can understand the whole market and not just one piece of it. The other thing that needs to happen is the person has to believe, and the organization ultimately has to believe, that culture leads their brand. And if culture leads their brand, then you can get a shot at the whole thing. Let's rewind the tape. I met Joe Anthony when I was running branded entertainment and integration at Motorola. And we had a product called Accompli. And it was tech forward, it had all the bells and whistles, and they said, well, who do we start with? And I said, we start with black people.
Early adapters.
Early adopters.
Early adapters.
Right? We want the people that are going to look at this product and say, oh yeah, I want to do that. And I don't know if he's in this room, but I remember partnering with Mike Salmon, Hawaii Mike, who was at the Source magazine. And I would give him early versions of our phones and say, take it out there and find everything that's wrong with it. They would come back with insights that our UI and UX people couldn't do. And I remember saying, I'm gonna find a black agency to launch this product. And it was Joe Anthony at Vital Marketing. I fought like hell, but I had my own budget, and I could make that call. And we did an amazing launch to the point where they were now, at that point, Vital was able to not only do business with Motorola here in the US, but they were able to do it in Europe as well. But I was in that seat, I had the budget, and I had the ability to say, this is the right thing for this product at this time, and this is the agency for it. I had Ogilvy, I had BBDO, I had the Fish Can Sing, but I also had Vital Marketing.
I remember Vital, too. We worked with Vital when I was at Global Hue. Chaucer, so I know you're at Translation. Y'all are doing bang-up work, MBA work. So dope. Do you still face the double standard? Is there still bias when you come to the table with a general market idea that's for everybody? And do they say, well, that's great, but we're going to put you in this box and let our gen market agency handle that?
With regard to bias, I'm sure it's there. I don't know how much of it I see. I'm keen, I've been doing this a long time, so let's say I see 40% of it, the other 60% I'm blind to. But I gotta tell you, not getting invited to continue to pitch down a fruitless path is actually a gift, right? I wish I could just put hoods on all of the ones that are just never gonna buy. Because it is remarkably expensive, right? Expensive, not just in terms of the real capital that you put out and salaries and computers and OpEx and all that. It's also expensive to an organization to continue to thump at the same door that doesn't open.
Right.
And so the earlier those doors can close, frankly, I feel fairly blessed. As to the more direct question about translation, while it's true, we are the agency of record for the NBA, for Beats by Dre, et cetera, I think we're all at a place where we have to acknowledge, like, what does agency of record even mean anymore, right? Like, we've been servicing the NBA for years, 8 years, the whole length of the Silver administration. I'm sure there's people in this room that have gotten some work out on the NBA, right? Beats has work in the world today that is not authored by us. And so there's two things I would say. Number one, I don't know that it's the relationship that we romanticize it to be. And number two, with regard to being biased out of the equation, generally speaking, the NBA being the one outlier, when we are in that position of being creative AOR or lead agency, lead of an IAT, et cetera, it's very rare that it went to pitch. It's much more likely that we've spent years cultivating relationships, years impressing upon people that we are business partners first and creative authors second, and in being able to really articulate to them a business problem and therefore a solution. And that's how we wind up in that chair. By the time it turns into an advertising brief, and now, procurement's got a number, and this person has a sourcing protocol, and everybody's got to weigh in, we are not advantaged by that, probably because of our black ownership,
Right.
but certainly because of our independence and our being unhooked from a larger machine.
So with that said, you're saying cultivating the relationships because you're black owned with your CEO, Gabby. As a new agency, how do you navigate those roads when you don't have those relationships?
Well, I think I stopped putting value in those relationships, so I actually built my agency for the actual culture, and so I focus explicitly on brands that are founded and owned by people of color. So I don't have to, when I'm in a room pitching an idea to our client Issa Rae or Bevel, I don't have to explain to them who Quavo is. They just say, oh yeah, let me go call him up, I'll put him in this campaign real quick.
Right.
However, Kitchen Table is part of Heirloom, a new black and woman-owned holding company, and so our sister agency, Che, which does focus on multicultural, or as we like to say, culturally led work. And it's interesting. I feel like the dynamic of this niche category, this box that we put on, despite the fact that we are clearly, becoming more and more the majority, is, in any other category, any other industry, niche, specialty, anything that's rare costs more. It's more specialized. We're specialized, right? So why on earth would we get smaller budgets, smaller access? It doesn't make sense. That's not the way the math works. So, my mom is not here. I don't know who that is, but thank you. The one thing I was going to say is it's interesting sometimes when I get into the niche, when I convince them to give us maybe a smaller project or something, and this happened with our agency, Che. We were the multicultural agency of record for Pernod Ricard, Martell specifically, and we came in as the culturally led agency, and then after a couple of months, they actually moved us up to their U.S. general market agency because they realized that when we lead with culture, the work works. And so I think it's different, but it's really backwards. I think general market also means generic, in my opinion. I don't know who would want that. So give me the stuff with culture. We know that over 75% of every ethnicity thinks black culture drives culture. So I think it's agencies like what we're creating here, what Translation is doing, and what we do at Che and Kitchen Table is we're creating a higher caliber of creative work that they didn't expect from us. It's like the work that everybody wants. So they're now putting our work in their briefs to other agencies to be like, make it look like that sexy Beats by Dre. Do you know how many times people said the Who Love Me spot?
Yes.
So it's all twisted.
I just want to stick on that. I completely agree with you. I think specialization gets this bad rap. Specialization is, you turn that same coin over, that's differentiation. That should be a value driver for you.
And in every other field, if you're a specialist,
You're safe when the reaper comes.
you get more.
You know what I'm
You
saying?
get more money.
But even just what the story Monique just told about her backstory with Joe, that is, the problem is specialization that somebody else assumes you are limited to. Mm-hmm. Because the story she just told was about a specialization in tech, or a specialization in tech adoption, or a specialization. And so as we were building a business over, I don't know, for me, 13 years, for Stout, 20 years, it's always been, what's the other name for that? it's youth, it's culture at large, it's music culture, etc. We're experts in all these things, and the resistance of saying specialization is probably something that's going to work more against us than for us in the long run.
It's the resistance. It's not just that, but it's also even in your lexicon, right? Like we try to avoid saying certain words because it's like this mental shift. As soon as you say minority owned, as soon as you say multicultural, it's like, oh, okay, smaller budgets, but I want you to reach all the black and brown people. We gonna make the cake, but I'm gonna bring you the cake already made, but you make it spicy and make it cool. Rather, bringing us the cake and letting us tell you how to make the cake where it's already baked in. So when we start to put ourselves in these niche, specialized categories, even though it should garner more money, we are blocked from the opportunity because on the brand side, they put us in a box. So how do we start to talk about the new majority in a way where these brands and clients understand this is who will influence the rest of our consumer sets?
First and foremost, we have to stop buying the stuff.
Yep.
Right? So we're in a medium, a near term, a medium, and a long term. In the near term, these brands are still really thriving, right? They can still feel the energy. Oh, we're still making a ton of money. Why should I care, right? The average tenure of a CEO being a CMO and a CEO actually, what, 2 to 3 years? 18 months for some. So do I really have it in me to go hard on this longer term strategy? Maybe, maybe not. I may or may not have that appetite, especially if I know I can make my numbers for 2026, doing the same thing that I've been doing. I will elevate the conversation to a board conversation where I think you can talk a little bit further out and say, we actually can see this decline.
Yep.
It's coming, and the shift because of immigration, et cetera, is going to require us to start thinking about our things differently. That conversation, we've got to really start to influence more to talk about the demographic cliff that is happening. So if there's a disconnect between the board, which is saying what does sustainability and future-proofing our business look like, versus what is right in front of me today and how is my bonus going to get paid out, those two things they are diametrically opposed, and it will cause a shift. Either one, the longer term strategy will start to influence, and ergo people's metrics should meet those needs.
Yes.
Very different. I know I'm getting really technical here, but it's like you've got to bring the two of those things together. A CMO and a CEO have got to be on the same page. Your brand metrics and your business metrics have to be the same. You can't go in two different directions. So at the end of the day, either brands are going to sign up to die, or they're going to sign up to be ready for the new. I think some of those conversations are happening at the top. We may not feel it yet in the agency land. I think it's coming. It has to. If you just start talking to white people, if you just say, I'm talking to the white people, you're gonna die.
Yeah, the pendulum is definitely swinging. And
You feel it?
I'm excited about it. I'm an optimist. I'm sorry, y'all. It's happening. It's coming. We talked about this. Something's coming out of this.
So we still in double dutch?
We're a
We
little
still in
double
double
dutch.
dutch.
Still in double dutch.
But we're going to get it. They're going to get their rhythm. I have faith.
This gives me faith.
So as we come out of this, how do we create, just like you founders came together, how do we create the space where there is collaborative competition, where we are, and this is the thing I said I was going to bring up, where we have a resource center for all of us. Let's get on the same page with the rate card. Let's get on the same page with case studies. Let's get on the same page with data, access to data, where we can compete against each other, but where we lock in on our rates. So if a brand's shopping around, well, you got to pay us the same rate. So you're not going to come and get us for the cheap because you're going to somebody else. Well, how do we lock in on those resources for each other to support each other while still keeping the competition there at the creative level.
I love this. I'm sorry. I like
Yes,
to
son.
say, at Kitchen Table, we say when we all have a seat, we all eat. And so we launched Heirloom at Cannes and then again at Adweek, a new Black and woman-owned holding company, to create a new ecosystem, a powerhouse of the most culturally resonant agencies, hopefully, in the world. And so we actually had a dinner in New York. Was that last week, 2 weeks ago? I'm still recovering. And Dabo and I, my partner, we were saying, oh, let's bring all of the CMOs to the table. Let's bring all of our clients to the table. Let's get new business. It was great. And we were like, nah, let's actually bring all of other Black and brown agency founders to the table. So we had 35 seats, filled the entire room. Joe Anthony, founder of Hero, Gary, founder of Creative Theory, Jeff, founder of What Works. Like, I can keep going on. Many of them
That's
are in
what's
the
up.
building. And it was essentially the competition. And we came together to the same table to figure out how can we feed the entire culture together, because it's really the only way. Because we're really cute in our corners and we're making change. But when we combine those efforts, that's when we can take over the world. And so that's the vision of Heirloom. And that's why and I had a speech at that dinner. And I actually had every single person stand up and say who they are, what they're doing. And I was like, my clients were in the room. I was like, don't touch them. Unless you want to. But taking this idea of competition and putting it away for the larger collective of us is, I think, where probably my delusion and optimism comes from.
That's where I'd like to see it go. I think we have to start to create the resources. If a smaller agency can't buy the tools to pull the data, they should be able to reach out and say, hey, I need X, Y, Z. Can you help me out? Because we want you to eat too, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what we do with our partnerships outside of the U.S., right? We decided to enter Canada, and that was a matter of, hey, our solutions work everywhere. How do we support independent agencies in these countries that can't even pitch because they don't have either a global partnership or otherwise? What could we do to support them without necessarily taking, but allowing them to grow and scale? We have insights, we have understanding, we have tools that you don't have. Here, go for it.
Yep.
You know your market better than anyone, and you shouldn't be locked out just because you're not attached to a mothership.
That's that part. So as we look at this, we talk about this collaborative competition, and we're looking at, as we know, culture. I'm going to shift. Is culture becoming the new total market term? Chaucer.
Yes.
I don't know, man. I don't really pay that much attention to people. Gabrielle said something earlier that appealed to me, that I'll peel apart a little bit. We got two sides of the business. There are people who already get it, and they want that thing, and they know how to name it, and they know how to value it, et cetera. And then you have other people that you are like bringing along. And to be honest, culture, at this point, Marcus Collins is doing so well with For the Culture. Anybody who wants to know can know. It's not locked in a box somewhere. And we personally don't assign ethnicity or nationality or race as code for culture, right? So we recognize multiculturalism as what most people would call intersectionality anyway. And those that really want to be in business with us and recognize our recipe from outside, they show up and they ask for that. And others, you kind of have to, slip the pill in the applesauce. And when the pill goes in the applesauce, eventually people start talking the right language. So, for example, if you go back to Beats, right? Like, everybody celebrates that one piece of work, Beats, You Love Me, and we're tremendously proud of that. But we're even more so proud of the reaffirmation that when you speak on behalf of Black youth at a time where where everybody's asking the same question in their group chat, in their minds, and you say it on a platform like that, you're gonna reawaken a relationship, right? And that relationship is then going to cascade into the behavior of all these others. So the blackest thing possible at the time turns into a market effect where Beats is in the Verizon holiday bundle 2 years later. And they're selling it in Oklahoma, right? A brand that had gone kaput because, once again, these young Black people and their conspicuous consumer adoption spurred all these other people. we just got to keep telling that story. I don't know what people are calling it or coding it, but we've got example after example after example of moving the middle, fundamentally rewiring these businesses by participating faithfully in cultural creation.
With that said, though, we are still facing limitations, right? When we think about this industry and the small percentage of budget, even though, like we're talking about the shift in our demographics, we've been talking about that for like 20 years now, right? The census been telling them that. We look at these budgets and we take the pie, and if we put the pie, 2 pie charts, and we have the spend, the media spend, and then we have our demographic pie, it's lopsided. We're still spending the bulk of the budgets on general market, yet our population is still, we're at what, 42% multicultural, diverse groups? How do we set the stage, even though we should have been set the stage, but how do we set the stage coming out of Black Week to really shift this conversation to the new majority and get a bigger piece of the pie?
Go ahead. I see you thinking. Get them. Take them to church. Take them to church, Monique.
Just think about what not to say.
You do it. First and foremost, I want to just thank everyone in this room. I want to thank everyone that ever thought about what this room could be. This is the beginning. There are conversations happening here in this very safe space, in this space that we thought was missing. Yeah. You heard the call and you came, right? So community matters. You now all have a buddy, whether you knew you had a buddy or not, but you now have a buddy to say, is that right? How can we change this? If you guys don't go back to work on Monday, right? Nobody works on a Friday, right? If you don't go back to work on Monday, and it's my birthday, this would be your present to me. On Monday, October 21st, I want you all to go back to work and say, what can I do to move the Black Week agenda forward? What can I do differently that I haven't done after this week? If we can motivate, what do we have, 1,300 people?
1,300? Crazy?
Crazy. If you all have a conversation, do you know how powerful that is? That's what we have to do. We have to go and just change, incremental change. I'm not asking you to go in and don't storm in nobody's, no, don't go in. Yeah, she told me, no. We don't need none of that. But I do want you to go in and just give me incremental change. Every time you look at a decision, does this feel right? Does this story actually jive? Right? Are we talking about the video matching the audio? Can we do that? And when we don't see those two connections, how can we change it? What kind of conversations can we have? And utilize this platform just for that. Reach out, find out. Hey, is there some data that I'm missing? Hey, are there insights that I have?
There's definitely some data that you're missing.
That you're missing, right? So how do we fill that for you? How do we make you full so you walk in the room with a lot more confidence to say, maybe we should talk to someone else. Or maybe we should add someone else, right? I'm not even saying kick anybody out.
Yeah.
To your point, let's carve that pie up a little differently, but it's gonna take time.
I just want to offer.
One more comment.
Yeah, I just want to offer
wrap up.
before we all sing Black Happy Birthday to Monique. Yo, we got to put each other's results on that mood board, not just the creative itself. And
Absolutely.
that's really what ultimately people are following followers, right? We're all old enough to remember a time before anybody would ever put their ad on a website with cat videos, or before they would ever buy anything where everybody was talking about what salad they ate or whatever. And now those things are utterly, unremarkably normal. And that's the agenda you got to push. But you got to put people in a box where they keep thinking about the results, not just the creative. Because half the time, the better it is, they might not even get the creative. But everybody gets the results. We got to tell each other's stories on the results.
And before we wrap up, that if you are starting your business or company, like data and business objectives go together. Like you cannot be like, it's a dope idea, or I got this cool influencer, no. If you are not disciplined in the data and translating the data, creating the story that ladders up to what it did for that client's brand, product, whatever it is, it's not gonna work. You can keep going in there and pitching because it's cool and it's smart, but you have to be disciplined in the data and analytics and the business objectives and know the business objectives of your client. And I will wrap today. And thank you all for coming to Black Week, Black Wakanda. And I think we on to something. Yes. And everybody be brave, speak up.